The journey of being crushed into clarity and humility. Now, one only knows the journey of attaining wisdom. The journey is previously understood as being of a harsh reality. But, as one is coming towards the ending times of it, as the healing begins within the walk, as the pain of not understanding of why matters of living are transpiring, the thoughts and feelings before, harsh journey is now clearly perceived as pleasant. The reward of contentment brings the clarity which most find difficult to understand. What the human being has to accept is, the rewards of living does not come without suffering through some degree of pain for the purpose of evolutionary growth upon the spirit and the mind, for the benefit of knowing the fundamentals of being alive. Having to be and therefore becoming from before existing as an entity, into a living organism can only be expounded as a miraculous manifestation, as this is and has forever been a sacred creation, but asserted by religion to be of the origin of the God of the religious world. The connection and disconnection of the human family is one of an individual task, as we all are destined to come to know and understand ourselves, as we struggle to understand one another through times of fear, joy, sorrow and common human relationship. The time of the crushing has forever been committed by the harsh treatment of one to another in this complicated venture of attaining the rewards of contentment within various sections of our internal state. The place inside which is fulfilled of answers giving clarity, and no longer grieving the pains of not understanding of why matters transpire. With time proceeding as it does and must, and of as one is still living within time and its forwards motion, the human being comes to understand that, if one fails to have a clear understanding in the present, then there will be trials coming forth to weather through for the sake of one to understand objectively in the present, what him or her failed to understand clearly of the past. However, fulfillment in terms of coming to know, is the primary recompense for the journey as a whole. Many have come in these times ask, after all of this has been learned, then what else is there in regards to having to know all of these matters conclusively? What now? I have wondered of what else can it be afterwards? What else is it that has to transpire after coming to know this status of perception, and for what reasons are there forthcoming in having the need for having this information individually? One asks of the claimed forthcoming. Is there more suffering to understand and to know? Has certain information been given for the sake of clashing against what information is preconditioned to come? I have come to the conclusion in effects of my observation of human relationship that information has never been a device for the creating a oneness of the human family. Information has forever caused divisiveness. So, one asks, is accumulating all of this information, even individually for the sake of coming to know that information, knowledge itself is futile? Was the universe correct when I died for 8 minutes 2014 when it claimed that, the mind is better at peace when it is void of any knowledge and only knowing nothing, and yet all living things, surpassing mere knowledge? Has the human family been cursed with knowledge? Was the Bible correct of when God told Adam not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? The knowledge of good and evil is obviously a constitution of information, which has a dual content, which in nature, clashing into one another in terms of perception, as well as one of a contravention possibility, if one does not properly understand all aspects of information which one is trying to express. This explains God's warning of the human being not benefiting from the accumulation of knowledge, as one has to wonder, even with through having accumulated knowledge, of how can this be so? I would have to say unfortunately, just look at the moral condition of our current society and of how further immoral it is becoming. This is through also this system of expression, as well as music and other venues of human utterance. All of which has in time become perverted and therefore exposing and exploitative. So, for what true reasoning is it to have attained all of this knowledge, information of God's, religious and political constitutions, if the earth abroad has not benefited of these areas of instruction? Has education in fact benefited the human mind? Or, has education caused all of what we see this day and all of what we have read through the historical accounts? This is the opening question submitted to you to observe without fear. Is the constitution of the knowledge of good and evil embedded within a time which the Creator morally condemned knowledge, because of its immorality? Where did the knowledge of good and evil come from? Did the knowledge of good and evil come from the Creator whom created all things including information which is itself considered a sphere of knowledge? Sphere of knowledge definition. A unified body or collection of knowledge regarding a specific subject, interest or otherwise area of expertise possessed by an individual. Genesis 2 verse 17. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. In spite of many commonly disagreeing of this claim, this implies a history of where and when knowledge was perceived by the Creator as an abomination to accumulate for humanity and therefore obtain. During this time that knowledge was condemned as abominable, was the population human beings? Or was the population some other formation of living subjects? Was there any formations at all? However, it is not good to assume anything other than what is practical to ourselves, considering the human factor being the reality of that time. However, as according to the Bible, which implies that God has a tolerance and therefore compassion for the presence of evil, when Lucifer, who was succumbed by the spirit of Satan, instead of destroying Lucifer in his rebellion for his transgressions against God, based obviously upon a law that was established in the heavenly plane, the place of where there was supposed to be total order and yet obviously without protection from the acts of rebellion from its population. But he, she or it, was spared and then ousted unto this earthly plane of where we also were created to exist. A place of where the earth supplies food, oxygen and other natural resources which are designed and manifested to preserve all of which has been situate upon it. This is the reality which is evident. As it is evident that the earth was created for the rebellious ones whom were cast out of heaven. As this preservation by God reveals a compassion for Satan and his student Lucifer, this in harmony reveal of God, a tolerance, a compassion and a will of preservation for evil. As many are afraid, or made by religion uncomfortable to question for the sake of investigation. If the knowledge of good and evil is not beneficial for the human family obviously, then where did this information come from? Who created this sphere of information which the divine warned Adam to refrain from in the knowledge according to the Bible? Was there another God present who created this constitution which the divine did not agree with? Before information was released by what Eve committed, through the instinct which she possessed within which was rebellion, Satan had to know that she was made for the purpose of being able to be manipulated by it, and therefore cause also the same rebellion upon earth as was committed in the heavenly plane. As this influence of her made Adam to be manipulated in obtaining this knowledge which caused the death of the current humanity. But, despite her influence upon Adam, Adam was still responsible for making his own conscious decision in going against what God instructed him not to do. Which implies him also having the rebellion implication inside. This is obvious the case. Otherwise, this would not have taken place. As considering the condition of the planet, this has to be valid either of the Bible, the Quran or simple observation from the non-religious community who are still able to see and feel that something formidable transpired that created this complicated stay on this earth despite believing in any organized and established religious doctrine. I would say that all of this was created by the accumulation of information, which the human family has forever used for the sake of war, suffering and death. So, is giving oneself to religious doctrine and therefore information beneficial? The evidence reveals a definable negative. The state of mind that Adam was in according to the Bible was obviously the state which was shown to me when I died. A mind that was empty of any information which reveal my being to be back a part of all living things of clarity beyond limited knowledge and back being a part of being one with all living things and power which is unlimited. As also not having any implication of implementing any personal agenda, because of having no more information to enforce any further chaos upon the earth. His mind was simply designed to obey without question. Questioning implies having knowledge. The moment that Adam gave into Eve's information, he died assuredly. Knowledge opposes truth as what was implied of Yeshua. John 5 verse 30. I can of mine own self do nothing, as I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not mine own will, but the will of the Father which hath sent me. John 12 verse 40. For I have not spoken of myself, but the Father which sent me, he gave me a commandment, what I should say, and what I should speak. The same as Lucifer through Satan sought his own will, the same was Eve in truth in time seeking her own as she removed herself from the presence of Adam. They were compatible and in harmony with rebellion. As this is what we are seeing this day in many women, men, and children. All of which are the results of the accumulation of knowledge that has produced such the condition of the environment through this current government system that is slowly destroying human relationship. Yeshua said that, "He does not speak of myself and thus, he does not speak from the area of any knowledge that he has attained, but, of the Spirit of the Divine, alone." And therefore, the Spirit of truth is in opposition of knowledge, as what was implied when this was said. Genesis 2 verse 17. "But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die." Was this implying that the information and therefore constitution of information was fruitless, non-beneficial, and non-productive? When observing the condition of the earth, it is clear that the accumulation of information has produced of humanity, a world that is in fact, inhumane in terms of human relationship. Therefore, seeking to find the right information is futile. All matters of living has to be trusted with the spiritual and intellectual instinct of the human being who is humanity. Information has only caused divisiveness. As this is placed before you as a possibility and a reality, consider what you see this day. Is there more suffering to understand and to know? Has certain information been given for the sake of clashing against what information is preconditioned to come? After the organism has finished its course through its accumulation of information according to its design destiny, what purpose is there to further obtain the information that was learned of the flesh if the human being is transformed from the burdens of the organism and into what is asserted as the spiritual state of being? It is a fact that, what the organism has stored in memories, despite its years of existing in function of that information, when the organism dies, the information dies with it. All go back to the earth and its source is never again recorded as valid for the benefit of the human family. But, what is claimed of what the organism has accumulated through religion, is asserted to lead the spirit of the human being to a better place known as the heavenly state of existence. Has this been validated as a fact? Or, has this been left to be believed and thus, not known in truth? What is the meaning of this? There is a state of powerlessness in belief. An incapacity in belief. An option for insecurity and inadequacy inside a belief system. The inability for any human being who has passed on to return to inform the rest of the human family that, the religions which have been given to the earth are in fact valid, reveals that religion and what it contains remains a source of control without validation of what it claims to exist. What is the fact of doctrine is the reality of illusions which religion gives to the human being's intellect, in regards to its assistance of fear and the gift of imagination. The possibility of being punished for the crimes against existing inside a humanity that no one was given a consent to venture in. Never given any insight to why existence is a reality, and of why the human being was considered a participant to play. The contention that the human being is upon what can be compared to being inside of a state which likens of indentured servitude and is serving the earth of what was obviously created for the rebellious, a time to resolve the matters of the heart and mind, without having the option of knowing of how we failed in the previous state of being without having to suffer the crime of what two human beings committed, and yet, this is asserted as a justice and therefore justification of why the human family struggle this moment in time. Genesis 3 verses 17 to 19. And unto Adam he said, Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree, of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake, in sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life, thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. This speaks of mankind being ordained to suffering under a government economic system because of not executing the mind which the Creator gave him, which was to obey according to obedience to his given intelligence, but because of heeding to the mind of a woman who has become one with the intellect of Satan, who heeded to the words of the enemy. This is the reason of why so many families are destroyed through the disobedience of the women inside the family structures of this current society. None of what this scripture is implying is saying that man will be free to till the land without being conquered by a government system. as all of which causes the human family to suffer the physical and stress-related effects of working inside of an economic system, designed and established by government powers, given those powers by the human family which cause this upon themselves and therefore, ourselves even within the constant feelings of inadequacy and the burdens of working inside of a system because of the demands of the flesh to survive. The flesh demands, I am hungry and so you must work to feed me. I thirst and so you must work inside of this current system to quench my thirst, and to give me shelter that I may rest and have security for the next day as I demand that you rise for to get back into the fields that I may continue to live. As it is this day and time in 2022 and venturing into 2023, this is the reality. The burden of living. The burden has been created through mankind's own rebellion against his own mind and heeding to the intellect of the enemy of mankind, rather male or female. Is this why we have been programmed through this living experience to say to the dearly departed, rest in peace, as Dr. Martin Luther King's tombstone reads, free at last, thank God Almighty, I am free at last. Resting in freedom? Resting does not imply a permanent state of peace. It implies a time given for peace and a preconditioned state chaos coming. Let's hope that I am terribly wrong. However, why should we have to hope at all? Has the journey been felt to be one of being enslaved? Many this day are beginning to feel that the state of living in this environment has become such a burden and not a blessing. Many have thoughts of self-termination for to escape the burdens of living. The homeless are beginning to say to the sheltered, I don't have to be concerned of the things you do. The paying rent and the paying for the lights. I have the earth as my shelter, and the sun for my lights that I may be able to see. I have found ways of finding food through many aspects of what many leave behind in the dumpsters of the society of where many fools take advantage of what they have been given, and throw what is still valuable for me to consume for the body in the trash. As this is the reality, despite an agreement or not in terms of its degree or percentage, this reality exists. This can be resolved the moment we understand how vital compassion is and what it will take to heal this earth. The question is, how many of us are willing to admit that our only enemy is not this government system, but the enemy is ourselves, as many are living inside working of this government system which has for centuries enslaved their own brothers and sisters. And what created the necessity for this current government system, the laws and the commandments? Obviously is our rebellion against having the intelligence to execute what is right according to righteousness and intelligence given by the divine, and not what was given to those before us who obviously failed humanity as a whole in effect. Where does this play in the involvement in people who assert that they live for the sake of divinity, who in fact involve themselves inside of a government system, which in fact was ordained to function as a punishment to mankind because of his rebellion against the divine, as the above scripture implies? Is the human being's participation in this government system another form of an abomination against mankind, as Yeshua implied that his kingdom is not of this world based upon principalities? The conformance of the world governments and the non-conformance of the human being to the will of the Creator? The state of our reality has obviously revealed that very little has changed for the better, as many are seeking to be a part of this government system which has opened become a world system now without secret, as it in the same implication is offering college courses for many of the youth to take classes for their place inside of this Egyptian, Roman government system which is in truth, Babylonian in intent. There is a vicious cycle of immorality which is present. Written by David Anthony Brayboy.